Hello, fellow traders. 'Tis I, the Rumpled One, coming to you Monday, January the 10th. The year's 2022. Let's talk trading. Problem solving. This video is for educational purposes only. Your results may differ from mine. Problem solving. It's one of the things I guess I studied, specialized at, and I'm pretty good at it, if I can give myself a pat on the back. But I read an article over the weekend that talked about problem solving, and it was kind of interesting because it it basically said something that I believe in, but they said it in a way that was slightly different, and it made me ponder. So that's why I'm talking about it today. And the thing is, if you have a problem and you try to solve it, well, usually you're going to try to solve it with the knowledge, expertise, experience, tools you have available. But that might not be the best solution. That might not be the best way to do it. And it might not work at all. Sometimes it might take something that's outside of what you know, have, and have experienced. And I thought that was really interesting because I usually like to use the example, if you give a baby a hammer, everything becomes a nail. Or, if you go to one doctor and they're a surgeon, well, they want to do surgery. If they're a chiropractor, they're going to want to adjust your spine. If they're an internalist, I think that's what it's called, they're going to give you a pill. If they're a naturopath, they're going to give you something from nature. And so they basically are going to, everybody's looking at the exact same problem, but they see it differently. And I watched this video, one of those Buddha videos, and they were talking about the story about the six blind men. And when the elephant came by, how each man touched part of a different part of the elephant, and then they were arguing about what the elephant, was or looked like. And when this one guy came by, he's like, "What are you guys all arguing about?" And they go, "Well, they tell him about the elephant." The guy go, "Well, you're all right. It's just you each touched a different part." So, okay, let's bring it back. What's that got to do with trading? Well, the thing is, if you're thinking you have a problem with trading, it probably means you're losing money instead of making money. That's like the problem, right? But the thing is, that's not really the problem. It's a symptom of the problem. You're doing something that is causing you to take losses. And so you have to try and figure out what that is. It could be a psychological problem, could be, and that's probably most likely what it is, unless the method just doesn't produce results. Like, some methods, they say work in ranging markets and some work in trending markets, blah, blah, blah. But, I just think that that's just somebody's opinion more than about what the market is. The market's the market. Price is just going up and down. It's kind of a binary thing. And then you've got those sideways people, but let's not even worry about them at this moment. So you really have to see what it is. There's probably one thing, and if you make that change, then all of a sudden things will start to get better. But it's really hard because, as I mentioned last night, and I was just talking to Walmart a few minutes ago, and I relayed the same story to him about how if you fall off a horse, if you don't let go of the reins, you're going to get, the horse is going to drag you, and it's probably not going to end very well. So that might be the problem that needs to be solved, that you have to let go of the reins when you're in a trade and it's not doing what you really want it to do, because it's just going to do what it's going to do, whether you want it to go up or down. If it's going the opposite way and you're losing money, there's nothing you can do other than just, either let it hit your stop or exit the trade. And let's just say, hopefully, you do have a stop placed. and you don't have to worry about that, right? So from there, is there some other problem? Maybe you're not taking money when you can. And that could be a big problem, that FOMO, fear of missing out. And so you don't want to have the ROGO, the regret of getting out. So you wind up, being, getting hit twice, the fear of missing out. So that's why you're staying in, because you think there's going to be more profit, because you don't want to have the regret of getting out and it keep going. And then you wind up with the robs, the regret of being stupid. You wind up kicking yourself, wondering what the heck you were doing, et cetera, et cetera. And, there's one thing, and I know this is one of my areas that I struggle with from time to time. And that is looking at things and going, oh, I could have had more money. And what happens is I'm in a trade and I start to manage my emotions, and instead of managing the trade. So if you're in a losing position, or you've been in a losing position, quote unquote, stuck in the trade, but as I mentioned in an older video years ago, that the only places you're stuck is between your ears. You're not stuck in the trade, because if somebody else came along and they hit the exit button, you wouldn't be in the trade anymore. So you're only stuck between your ears. But it is one of those things where if you're managing your emotions, like, oh God, it felt good to get out of that trade, and then it goes on, and if you would have just stayed in, hung in a little bit further, maybe you made another, 2, 5, 10 or more pips. But it's just one of those things that you have to recognize. Maybe you jot a note, and so the next time you feel that way, you go, you know what? I'm not going to manage my feelings. I'm not going to manage my emotions. I'm going to go back and I'm going to stick with my trading plan. And right now, my trading plan says to do X. I am doing X. So, going back to what we're talking about, problem solving, if that's your problem, and really, if you're having any of the brain management type problems that we've talked about here, okay, where'd it go? There's these brain management problems. First thing is you have to recognize what you're feeling or doing right in that moment, what you're thinking. And then no matter what it is, you have to follow it up with, okay, I am feeling FOMO, but I'm going to stick with my trading plan. Or, you know what? I don't want to have ROGO, but I'm going to stick with my trading plan. I'm going to execute my trading plan. And so that might be the one trick or the one solution to a problem. And so where did I come up with that solution? Well, like I said, I read something that had nothing at all to do with trading. Nothing at all. Because, trading how you trade kind of reflects how you live your life in a way. And you can, a lot of stuff comes to the surface when you trade. You can really see how you feel about money, how you feel about, how things are, and how you react to the world. Because if you get in a trade and you think the market's against you, well, then probably in life you think the world's against you. And it's just one of those things where you just have to take a real hard look at yourself. I can't do it. Only you can do it. I can just kind of, throw these things out there, and maybe one of the traders out there says can identify with it, and then use it. Okay, let's kind of move on with the charts here. Where are we? Okay, on the monthly chart, we still got a green month, only 26 pips above the open at the moment. On the weekly, we're 18 pips below the weekly open, heading towards that weekly pivot here at 35.41. In fact, I'm going to show you something I talked about yesterday. So I'm going to run through these kind of quickly here. Okay, we fell out of the previous day's wick zone, and there wasn't much of a wick zone here. We're still above the opening range for the month and year, putting in the opening range for this week. Okay, we're off 50 pips off the yearly high and 27 pips above the yearly open. We're above the inside bars, at least the weekly and the daily, but we're still in the inside bar that happened 3 months ago. For the day, 3 pairs over 100. The pound right now at 52 pips, 51 pips, just depends. It's a rounding. Let's see, we might get back to the open of the previous day, Friday, not sure. Buy zone traders, as I mentioned, you could not have traded this because, at least not on my platform, there's a 30 pip spread. But you see here we crisscross the weekly open at 35.69, but we're now below it. As you see, last hour we went right through the short zone there. Green rats might be getting ready to feast. We've been putting in new daily lows here, 1, 2, 3 hours in a row, it looks like. Okay, we're heading towards the weekly pivot at 35.41. We already hit the daily pivot. Once again, daily's taken out. We're heading towards the week and the monthly. We still haven't taken that out yet. Okay, quickly. Wick zone, not much of a wick zone. Already showed you that. We're lower high, higher low. You can see it's just not giving us those trades, so you have to wait for enough pushes. Actually, we've had 28 pushes down here on the 1 minute chart. On the wall mall sweet spot lines, let's see, previous hour there was a nice trade. So far no trade this hour because it just opened. Nowhere near the ATR zones at the moment. Okay, I talked about the pivot in relation to the previous high. What happens? Well, if the open's less than the pivot and the pivot's less than the previous high, how many times is the high greater than the pivot? Well, you can see we had 59 times open was less than pivot, 59 times pivot was less than previous high, high greater than pivot 49 times, or 83% of the time. So it shows you, statistically over the last 100 trading days, if you would have faded the pivot when the open was below it, you would have hit it 83% of the time, hit it or exceeded it. High greater than the previous high 37% of the time. So that shows that you can definitely make money. Once again, these videos are for educational purpose of only fading the pivot. Now, on the other hand, open less than the pivot, but the pivot's less than the previous, but the previous high is less than the pivot, didn't happen. So, and if you're wondering how I did this, I used the old 2017 price travel analyzer to set this up. So, fellow traders, I hope today's video gave you something to ponder on problem solving that you might have. Let me know in the comments somewhere out there. And when you sit down at your trading terminal, just remember, always remember, never forget, it's not what you trade, it's how you trade it. So go out there and drain the banks. This is the Rumpled One, over and out.